The Betty Grable mystery finally solved, and it's disturbing. Betty Grable was born Elizabeth Ruth Grable on October 6, 1916, in St. Louis, Missouri. Her upbringing was not one of quiet domesticity, but one heavily influenced and largely directed by the ambitious drive of her mother, Lillian Grable. Lillian was a classic stage mother, fiercely determined to see her daughter achieve stardom, arguably pursuing her own unfulfilled dreams through Betty. From a very young age, Betty was pushed into dance classes, singing lessons, and acting schools. Her childhood was structured around the pursuit of a career in entertainment, leaving little room for the carefree experiences of youth. This early environment instilled in Betty a deep sense of discipline, but also exposed her to the pressures of performance from a tender age, under the constant motivation and sometimes forceful guidance of her mother. Seeking greater opportunities than St. Louis could offer, Lillian moved Betty to California when she was still a teenager. Betty began her career in Hollywood at the very bottom, starting as a dancer in film choruses and small stage productions. She slowly graduated to bit parts in films, often uncredited appearances where her face might be seen briefly, but her name wasn't in the credits. She signed contracts with studios like RKO and later Paramount in the 1930s. But despite her evident talent as a dancer and her striking good looks, she struggled to break through as a leading lady. She was often cast in minor roles or B-musicals, seen by many studio executives as just another pretty face in a town overflowing with them, lacking that indefinable star quality they were seeking. It was a period of grinding work, battling for recognition in a competitive industry, and facing the uncertainty common for many aspiring actors. During this period, amidst the struggle for stardom, she had an early, brief marriage to former child star Jackie Coogan from 1937 to 1939, a union that ended in divorce and reflected the often unstable personal lives of those navigating the fringes of Hollywood. It wasn't until she signed with 20th Century Fox in 1940 that her fortunes would dramatically change, setting the stage for a level of fame that would bring unprecedented highs, but also contribute significantly to her later private struggles. Betty Grable's ascendancy at 20th Century Fox was nothing short of meteoric. Her moment arrived somewhat unexpectedly when Alice Faye, the reigning musical star at Fox, had to withdraw from the film Down Argentine Way, 1940, due to illness. Betty stepped into the role and, with her dazzling beauty, infectious energy, engaging screen personality, and formidable skills as a singer and dancer, she captivated audiences and studio executives alike. Fox quickly recognized her immense potential, seeing her as the perfect star for their lavish, vibrant Technicolor musicals, a genre designed to provide escapist entertainment during the darkening clouds of World War II. Through a string of hit movies like Moon Over Miami, 1941, Song of the Islands, 1942, Springtime in the Rockies, 1942, and Coney Island, 1943, Betty Grable became the very embodiment of the cheerful, glamorous, yet accessible girl next door. Her films were wildly popular, offering a much-needed burst of color, music, and light-hearted romance during a time of global conflict. She rapidly rose to become Fox's biggest star, a consistent and reliable box office draw whose name above the title guaranteed success. For several consecutive years in the mid-1940s, she was not only Hollywood's highest-paid actress, but the highest-paid woman in America. It was during this period of unparalleled success that her image transcended that of a mere movie star and became a powerful national symbol. The famous photograph of her in a swimsuit, taken in 1943, showing her looking back over her shoulder with a radiant smile, became the single most requested pin-up image of World War II. Millions of copies were distributed to servicemen around the globe. She wasn't just an actress anymore. She was the pin-up girl, a tangible link to home, a symbol of the beauty, the optimism, and the life they were fighting to protect. The studio, recognizing the power of her famous gams, famously insured her legs for a staggering $1 million, transforming a physical attribute into a marketing legend and solidifying her image as the girl with the million-dollar legs. The public saw the vibrant, cheerful, seemingly uncomplicated star, the epitome of American beauty and happiness, a symbol of hope in dark times. This incredibly bright, shining, and optimistic public image is the core against which the hidden truth, the mystery, becomes so profoundly disturbing. Beneath the layers of Technicolor glamour, the demands of being the top star, and the relentless pressure to maintain her perfect public image, Betty Grable was, at her core, a woman seeking the very things she lacked in her performance-driven childhood: stability, genuine affection, emotional security, and a sense of normalcy away from the spotlight. After her first marriage ended, she entered into the relationship that would become the most significant of her adult life and, as the disturbing mystery reveals, the primary source of her private turmoil. The man who captured her heart was Harry James, a brilliant trumpet player and band leader. Harry James was a massive star in his own right during the swing and jazz era, a musical celebrity whose fame and popularity rivaled Betty's during the war years. He was charismatic, undeniably talented as a musician, and possessed a certain exciting swagger that was characteristic of the big band world. Betty and Harry reportedly met through mutual connections in the entertainment industry, a blending of the film and music worlds. Their courtship was swift, intense, and fueled by a powerful mutual attraction and shared experience of massive fame. To the public, they seemed a perfect, glamorous match, the queen of Hollywood musicals and the king of swing coming together. Their union was a major celebrity event. They married in Las Vegas in July 1943, right at the very peak of both their careers. A whirlwind wartime romance that seemed destined for greatness. They quickly started a family, welcoming 2 daughters, Victoria and Jessica, in quick succession. The public image projected was one of a dynamic, attractive power couple building a seemingly idyllic family life amidst the chaos of the war. Photos of Betty and Harry with their young daughters were published, presenting a picture of domestic bliss and stability that perfectly complemented Betty's cheerful on-screen persona and her image as America's sweetheart and pinup. They were seen as proof that even the biggest stars could have it all: fame, fortune, and a happy family. But even in the early years, away from the cameras, the stage lights, and the adoring public, there were subtle, then increasingly obvious, signs that this seemingly perfect union harbored deeper, more troubling issues, problems that, over time, would place an unbearable strain on Betty and force her to maintain her bright, shining facade at an immense personal cost. So, what exactly is the mystery of Betty Grable? As we've emphasized, it is not a mystery about secret scandalous behavior on her part, not a hidden vice that would betray her wholesome image in a conventional gossip column sense. Instead, the disturbing truth lies in the stark, almost unbearable contradiction between the radiant, optimistic, seemingly perfect and stable public image she was compelled, by her studio, by public expectation, and perhaps by her own determination, to project, and the turbulent, anxiety-ridden, financially precarious, and often heartbreaking reality of her private life, centered primarily around her marriage to Harry James. The disturbing aspect is the sheer weight of the burden she carried, the profound emotional and psychological pain she concealed, and the immense personal cost she paid for decades to maintain that flawless, cheerful facade for a world that adored her symbol, not necessarily her complex human self. Why is this truth so disturbing? Because it exposes the often cruel reality behind the glamorous facade of Hollywood stardom, particularly for women whose value was heavily tied to their image and perceived perfection. It shows the immense psychological cost of being reduced to a carefully curated image, the pinup, the million-dollar legs, the cheerful star, and the expectation to constantly be that image, regardless of one's internal state. It lays bare the truth about a marriage plagued by serious issues that were carefully hidden from the adoring public by Betty's determination and the studio's control. maintained behind a shimmering veil of public appearances and posed photographs. It highlights the profound pain, anxiety, and personal sacrifice that a major star, particularly a woman in that era, was forced to endure in silence to protect her career, her family, and the public's idolization of her. The mystery is how she managed to project such unwavering happiness and stability while facing such chaos. The primary source of this disturbing reality, the wellspring of her hidden pain, was, without question, her marriage to Harry James. While their initial attraction and love were reportedly real, Harry James struggled with significant, destructive personal demons that placed an almost unbearable strain on Betty, their family life, and their financial security. Harry was known throughout the music world for his heavy drinking. His struggles with alcohol were a constant source of tension, unpredictability, and emotional distress in their home. Arguments fueled by his drinking were reportedly frequent and often volatile, shattering any illusion of peaceful domesticity for Betty and their young daughters. Beyond the drinking, Harry James harbored a deep and destructive addiction to gambling. This wasn't just a casual pastime. It was a serious compulsion that led him to gamble away vast sums of money with alarming regularity. As one of the highest-earning stars in Hollywood, Betty Grable was the primary financial engine of their family. Harry's gambling debts often piled up to astronomical amounts, and it was Betty who repeatedly had to step in, using her considerable earnings from films and endorsements to pay off his creditors and bail him out of financial trouble. Imagine the sheer, grinding stress of being at the pinnacle of your demanding career, responsible for supporting your family, raising 2 young children, and simultaneously having to cover enormous, reckless gambling losses for your husband, knowing that the cycle was likely to continue with no end in sight. This constant financial burden, the perpetual anxiety about their solvency due to his addiction, was a source of immense, debilitating worry for Betty. A stark and painful contrast to the image of the wealthy, carefree star she played on screen and was perceived to be off-screen. The disparity between her public image of financial success and her private reality of constantly paying off debts created by her husband's addiction is profoundly disturbing. Adding to the strain were persistent rumors and, reportedly, instances of Harry James's infidelity. While the exact extent and undeniable truth of all these rumors remain subjects of discussion, the mere suspicion, the whispers circulating within their social circles and perhaps even reaching the press, though likely suppressed, and any actual instances of unfaithfulness would undoubtedly have added another brutal layer of pain, insecurity, and betrayal to Betty's already heavy burden. To be arguably the most desired woman in the world publicly, a symbol of feminine appeal, yet potentially feel betrayed, inadequate, or constantly worried about her husband's fidelity in her private marriage, is a deeply disturbing and tragic paradox. It would have eroded her self-worth in the most personal of ways, contrasting starkly with the confident image she projected. Betty Grable was, in essence, trapped in a gilded cage of her own fame and commitment. She loved Harry. He was the father of her children. And despite his significant flaws and destructive behavior, there were likely moments of charm, connection, or hope that kept her committed for many years. But his addictions and behavior created a chaotic, painful, and financially unstable home life. As a major star, under the watchful eye of 20th Century Fox and the American public, Betty couldn't simply air her grievances publicly, admit her pain, or fall apart emotionally. She was Betty Grable, the symbol of American cheer, the million-dollar property. She was under immense pressure from the studio to maintain her image, to be reliable on set, to sell tickets, and to embody that unwavering optimism. She was expected to present a picture of a happy, stable star, a devoted wife and mother, both on-screen and in her public life, to protect her career and the public's perception of their wholesome icon. This relentless necessity to maintain a flawless, cheerful public facade while living a private nightmare is the absolute heart of the disturbing mystery. She had to wake up each day, put on her makeup, put on a smile, go to the studio, be Betty Grable, vibrant, funny, Optimistic, the picture of happiness, all while potentially dealing with a hungover husband, the crushing weight of new gambling debts, the emotional residue of arguments, or the gnawing suspicion of infidelities from the night before. She had to perform happiness and stability in front of cameras, studio executives, journalists, and millions of adoring fans, while her own life felt unstable, unpredictable, and filled with worry and heartache. The sheer energy required to compartmentalize her profound pain, to bury her anxieties, to smile through the heartache, to carry the financial and emotional weight of her husband's destructive addictions while simultaneously being America's sweetheart and a dedicated mother, must have been immense, utterly draining, and ultimately deeply damaging to her own well-being. Stories from friends, colleagues, and those who worked on the ranch, recounted in various biographies and interviews over the years, paint a consistent picture of a woman who, while professional and often still capable of her famous humor and warmth, carried a visible weight. There were moments of fatigue, hints of the strain behind the eye, perhaps a sharp word when the pressure became too much. She was reportedly fiercely protective of Harry in public, trying desperately to shield him and their family from the negative press his behavior could attract, often covering for him or downplaying issues. This protective instinct, while born of love and loyalty, added significantly to her already crushing burden, forcing her into the role of silent sufferer, enabler, and constant problem solver, all while maintaining her dazzling public persona. Furthermore, being the pin-up queen itself, the very source of her immense fame and fortune, contributed to her complex reality in a deeply disturbing way. Her image was not just admired, it was objectified, simplified, reduced to her physical attributes: the legs, the smile, the perfect figure. She was a symbol, a projected fantasy. More than just an actress or a person, this meant the pressure to be that symbol. Flawlessly happy, eternally optimistic, always desirable, was constant and unforgiving. She couldn't just be herself. She had to be Betty Grable, the cheerful, sexy, approachable icon that represented hope and beauty for millions. This pressure to embody an unrealistic, simplified image, combined with the very real chaos and pain of her personal life, created a profound psychological dissonance. She was arguably being exploited by her husband's addictions, using her money and emotional stability to fuel his destructive habits, and simultaneously by the industry, demanding she maintain an impossible. The fact that she endured this for so many years, staying married to Harry James until 1965, despite over 2 decades of his reported struggles with drinking, gambling, and infidelity, which began very early in their marriage, is a testament to her incredible resilience and perhaps to the complex reasons individuals stay in difficult marriages. For the public, who saw the glamorous couple with their children, the eventual divorce was perhaps seen as a shame, a love story that didn't last. But knowing the reality behind it, the years of relentless financial strain, emotional pain, broken promises, and the crushing necessity of maintaining that flawless facade, the truly disturbing aspect is not the divorce itself, but the sheer length of time she carried that hidden, agonizing burden while projecting such a bright, cheerful image to a world that had no idea of the constant storms she was weathering. This is the disturbing core of the mystery. As the 1950s progressed, the golden era of the big Technicolor musicals that had made Betty Grable a superstar began to wane. Public tastes shifted towards different types of films, and her particular brand of cheerful, escapist musicals became less popular. Her film career at 20th Century Fox started to decline. She left the studio in 1953 after a contract dispute and attempted to find roles elsewhere, but she never recaptured the cinematic heights of her 1940s peak. However, Betty Grable proved to be a resilient and adaptable performer. She successfully transitioned to the stage, finding renewed success in musicals in Las Vegas and touring productions like Hello, Dolly. This allowed her to continue working and showcasing her enduring talent as a live performer, demonstrating that she was more than just a movie star. She was a versatile entertainer who could still command an audience and find joy in performing, even if the scale of her fame had shifted. Her tumultuous marriage to Harry James finally came to an end. After years of trying to make it work despite the ongoing problems, they divorced in 1965. This marked the official, public end of the relationship that had caused her so much private turmoil for over 2 decades. She reportedly had other relationships in her later years, finding companionship and perhaps a degree of peace after the long, difficult marriage. Despite her continued professional activity and finding some personal tranquility, the years of immense pressure, chronic stress, and hidden personal struggles may have taken their toll on her health. In the early 1970s, she was diagnosed with cancer. Betty Grable passed away relatively young, on July 2, 1973, at the age of 56. Her death was met with sadness by the millions who remembered her as the vibrant star and wartime pinup, a symbol of a happier time. However, likely only a small circle of people truly understood the immense, silent battles she had fought throughout her life. Betty Grable's legacy remains powerful and enduring. She is forever etched in history as the iconic pinup queen of World War II, a beloved symbol of hope, beauty, and a simpler time. Her films, with their vibrant colors and catchy songs, continue to be enjoyed by classic movie fans, a testament to her talent and the escapism they provided. Her million-dollar legs remain a legendary part of Hollywood lore. But the mystery of Betty Grable, finally solved, reveals a more complex and, as our title suggests, profoundly disturbing truth behind the cheerful facade. It wasn't a secret vice of her own making, no hidden scandal in the traditional sense. It was the heartbreaking story of the immense emotional, psychological, and financial burden she carried for years due to her husband Harry James's severe addictions and destructive behavior, amplified by the relentless pressure inherent in her stardom to hide that deep private turmoil and constantly project an image of unwavering happiness, optimism, and stability to a world that needed her to be that symbol. Her story is a poignant and powerful reminder of the often stark contrast between the glamorous, seemingly perfect public image of Hollywood stars and the difficult, sometimes heartbreaking, reality of their private lives. It highlights the immense pressure, particularly on women in the industry, to be perfect, to be symbols, to conceal their pain, regardless of the personal cost. When the mystery of her seemingly perfect life is solved, we don't find scandal in her actions, but a disturbing truth about what she was forced to endure and conceal for the sake of maintaining a symbol. Betty Grable will always be remembered for her radiant smile and legendary legs. But the disturbing truth behind the mystery unveils a story of incredible resilience, silent suffering, and the heavy, hidden cost of being America's sweetheart, a truth that complicates her sunny image, but ultimately reveals the depth and humanity of the woman who carried immense burdens while making the world smile during its darkest hours.